My name is Dynamo. I'm a videographer, a cinematographer that specializes in shooting events, weddings, music videos, and the like. Basically, I'm an all-in-one run and gun shooter. One thing I love about the job that I do is the ability to convey emotions through colors, which is why I was pretty excited when Dehancer reached out to me to try out their film emulation plugin, Dehancer. So I've been using it for about a month now on my PC and my smartphone, and it's really been a game changer to my workflow. I mean, it has drastically improved my video quality. What is Dehancer? Dehancer is a film emulation plugin that converts your digital looking images into film-like images using actual genuine film stocks. They have up to 60 plus film stocks available, and it's just mind-blowing. They also have other film tools like halation, blooms, grains, film gates, and many more. So I'm going to show you how I color grade my videos and how I integrate Dehancer into my videos. If you want to join me on this tutorial, you can purchase Dehancer using the link in my bio and use my discount code Dynamo for a 10% off on your first purchase. Without any further ado, let's go straight into it. So after installing Dehancer, you find it in your color tab under the FX panel right here at the bottom. So, but firstly, we have to work on our node. We want to convert our node into Rec 709. Simply hold Alt S 4 times to create 4 nodes. And now we're going to rename this to CST in and rename the last node to CST out. And I'm going to tell you why in a minute. So in our first CST in, we're going to go to color space transform and CST out. Also add a color space transform into the node. Now CST in, you want to go to your input color space and put your camera profile. On this, I shot on the Sony a6700, which gave me the Sony S-Cam3.Cine, and my input camera was S-Log3. So now I want to change our output color space to DaVinci Wide Gamut and output gamma to DaVinci Intermediate. Now the reason why we are outputting to DaVinci Wide Gamut is because Dehancer works best in DaVinci Wide Gamut. It's a wider color space and to just give us more, to give us tons of information to spare to work with. So in our CST out, we go to our input color space and input our DaVinci Wide Gamut, DaVinci Intermediate, and our color space now is going to be Rec 709 and gamma 2.4. Now we are working within DaVinci Wide Gamut color space. What I usually do is I create one extra node. Now I rename this to white balance, this to contrast, and then the answer comes in here. So first off, go to our white balance, and this looks pretty good already. If you're not happy, you can use the auto white balance. I don't want to go in depth into white balance and everything, to just go to auto white balance and click on what it's supposed to be white, which is something like this, and it will auto white balance it. But I actually do prefer how it looked before. I think this is how it looked like because it was shot on golden hour, so it looks like this. So now that we've done the white balance, go to our contrast, and I think the image looks balanced in my opinion. You can just bring down this, but I don't want to touch down the highlights. I'll tell you why in a bit, but it looks pretty good, so I'm going to leave that. So let's go straight into applying Dehancer into our video. So after installing Dehancer, like I said, it's going to be at the very bottom of your Resolve FX. So just drag this into this, and first off, you're going to notice it looks awful. Yeah, I know. This is one problem with Dehancer. To fix this, go down and just click on Disable All Tools. Now this will reset everything to default. And then Alt and this would close all the tabs. So Alt and click on this arrow to close all the tabs. So now let's start. We have our input, we have our film, and we have our film developer. So each of these things play different roles, or is going to affect our image in different ways. First off, we have our input. We have our source as Rec 709. We want to change this because we are working within the DaVinci Wide Gamut color space. So changing this to DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate. And there you go. Now we can work for our exposure compensation. If we want to, we can adjust the exposure from here, temperature, compensation, whatever. And if you're working on, you can also input your camera directly from here. So if you're not working on DaVinci Wide Gamut, you can input your camera settings just like Sony, this and that. But obviously, I already did that. I'm working within the DaVinci Wide Gamut. So this is very unnecessary. So I'm just going to undo all that and go back to DaVinci Wide Gamut. So that is for the input. Now, this is the most important part of Dehancer, the film looks. They have up to 60 plus film stocks available. It is just mind blowing. I usually choose the Kodak Vision Pro, the Kodak Vision 500T. And we're going to enable this. Immediately, we have a stunning visual already. So the Kodak 500T, Kodak 200, or the Kodak 250D. I'm going to use the 500T, and you can pull your film look. You can pull it to make it. Honestly, I don't know what this pull does, but I just know it affects the image in a very subtle and unique way. And I like it to be around here. So yeah, now that is that for the film looks. You can obviously try out different genuine film stocks. They are all here, and it's just crazy. And they'll keep adding extra, and they'll keep adding more as time goes on, which is absolutely amazing for me. So film developer, I don't really use this, but you can use this to, if you enable this, you can boost your contrast in the shadows. I think it works in the shadows or something. So you can boost your contrast. You can do whatever you want to do on this, but I don't touch this. Usually don't touch this. Now, this is a very handy feature when it comes to Dehancer. This is one of the most unique features in Dehancer, film compression. Now, what this does is amazing. Just watch the highlights. Watch the highlights over here. Once I enable this, just look at that. This is why I didn't touch the highlights on the curves when I was adjusting my contrast. I knew Dehancer would do this automatically, and it just gives it this filmic highlights. Like, what it does is just magic. I've not seen any other plugin that does what this does. So this is it without film compression. This is it with film compression. So if you have clipping highlights, enabling film compression will just make your highlights look very buttery, smooth, and very creamy, like actual films. So this is already on its own very good. I just like to increase the color density. Yeah, color density a bit, and I don't want much impact because I still want the highlights to show a bit, and the tonal range to reduce just a bit to watching my vector scope. I'm sorry, watching my waveform just a bit. So I'm going to leave this at that. We go to expand. I don't touch the expand. This is if you want to work on your black point or your white point. Usually leave it like this. Now, print is one feature I love about Dehancer. It uses the most popular film prints ever, like 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. Senior log film, Fuji 3513 print film, the Kodak 2383 film print, and the Kodak Endura glossy paper. Once I enable it, this is a Kodak glossy Endura glossy paper. There's a Kodak 2383 film print. So for this, I'm going to be using the Kodak 2383 print film. It just gives it this contrast, and I think it works well for this scene because it's, if I go the glossy paper, it's very cool, but I'll need to tweak the exposure a bit. But this already looks very good for me. And I'm going to increase the color density. And now that's for print. Now, color head, I don't really do, I don't think I've used this before, but if you want more individual adjustments to your clip, you can definitely use the color head to affect the yellows, the blue. If you enable it, that is this, the blue, like tint. I think it works with tint. It's like your tint slider on the native app. So shadow tone. And if you're looking for a split tone effect, I think this works very well for split toning and the likes. Aside that, I don't use it, so I'll disable it. Now we have our film grain. Now this is one thing that separates digital looking films and films, like film grains. Now has 35, 65 to 8 millimeter. The smaller the number, the larger the film grains. If you go 8 millimeter, you have very large film grains like this on your videos. But if you go for 65 ISO 50, you have more subtle film grains on your videos. And I just like how it is. I like this. So I'm going to leave it at this. Let's leave it at this. Now we have halation and bloom. Halation and bloom. Now, halation will give us that orangey glow on our highlights. And I usually turn this on when I'm shooting indoors where there are lights. It just gives it this glowy feel, and it's just very amazing to look at. Of course, you have to make it subtle so it doesn't look too halated or something. So I usually go around 65 and reduce the amplification a bit. And then for bloom, now I can go for 8. Now this will bloom the highlights for this. Go this without it and this without it. It creates this subtle glow on the edges of highlights, and it looks amazing. Looks amazing. So I'm going to enable this. So basically, once I've done this, I'm done. Film damage. This is going to give your film like a scratch. How films used to look before. Films are like usually like dirt on the film lens and on the film itself. So this emulates that. Of course, I don't need that. You can see as I move the slider, you can see some crippling fringes on the image. That's what that does. I don't need that. So we have our film breadth, which makes our film wiggle. If I enable this, gives it this wiggly feel. So yeah, that's what that does. Disable that. I don't need that. We have overscan, which gives us this filmic frame. It just looks cool. It looks cool for certain shoots, for certain shots. And we have vignetting, which of course does what vignetting does. That is what vignetting does, creates a darkening of the corners of your video. So that's what it does. And one important thing that Dehancer does is monitoring false color. What's false color? If I enable this, you would see a bunch of colors. Like you see the green, you see blue, you see red. Now what this does is gives you an accurate measurement of your exposure. Things that are in the reds are clipping, like over clipped, and things that are green are well exposed, just like you have in this chart here. So you can use this to adjust your exposure. You can see our highlights here. We have the reds around the edges and the likes. So that's what that does. It's very, very useful, and I use this a lot. I use this most of the time when I'm shooting outdoor shoots or creating outdoor shoots like this. So I know if my highlights are creamy or overexposed. And you can also export your lot. If you like this look, you can click export and it will export into a cube format on your PC, and you can always apply it on other clips. So this is my final image, and I think it's good. It looks very, very good. So basically that is what Dehancer does. There is my workflow and how I integrate Dehancer into my videos. But here is what I actually think about Dehancer. As a film emulation plugin, it delivers. It absolutely crushes it. The film tools like halation, bloom, film grains, they are absolutely amazing. I use them most times than the film stocks. But here are the things I don't like about Dehancer. Number one is the fact that once you import Dehancer plugin into a node, every node is activated automatically. For someone who's just coming in, it just looks like, oh, what have I done? And it's a bit too much for somebody who's learning. The second con is not actually a con, but a suggestion, because for every tab there, most people don't know what they do except experimenting on it. So probably maybe just create a question mark icon behind each tab that explains a little bit what each of those things does. That would really be helpful to myself and to everybody that's going to Dehancer for the first time. Aside that, Dehancer is actually a solid plugin that does what it says it does. It gives you authentic looking film looks. It is one of the best plugins out there that emulates films. Now, Dehancer works both on your PC and your smartphone. If you want to purchase Dehancer, link will be in the description below. Also use the promo code Dynamo to get a 10% discount on your first purchase. And I'd actually recommend you buy the Pro version of Dehancer because it has all the features you would basically need to properly emulate films like halation, bloom, film grain, and the likes. Let me know in the comment section if you use Dehancer or you've used any other plugin that you think rivals Dehancer. That'll be an interesting topic. Before then, see you again in the next video. Cheers.